All right. Fill me in. Get this clip in here. I use like these things too, these tassels.
Oh, yes. Good idea.
Or is it the other way? I think you're doing it the other way.
Oh,
There you go.
sorry. There we go.
There you go.
There we go. We're good now.
Yeah. How's it been?
Not too bad. We were actually just talking before we got here.
Mm-hmm.
We were saying like the last class when we did all that work
Yep.
with like kind
With
of
touch.
getting in her space and whatnot. We haven't necessarily had a ton of opportunity to like practice that.
Sure.
Steve did when
Yep.
you were out on a walk.
Yeah, that was on Saturday. So I've been working on taking Cashew on busier streets, whereas we avoided that before.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you could tell that she's just a little more, I would say, heightened in terms of her kind of worriedness, right?
Yep.
You can tell she's more on edge, so I make sure I keep her in a very tight heel, and she's been great. She hasn't been wanting to steer off, or she stays on the path when she knows she's in heel, but got into another scenario when someone comes up, you know, to try to sell you something and ask if they have a minute of my time, and I just like tried to kind of power through and said no thank you, but her talking started setting Cashew off, and I tapped her, and like again I was kind of proactive checking in with her like I did before. So from a user perspective I did better than before, but
But she
she
has some
still
issue
kind of
with
barked
it.
and was, you know, you could tell she was getting all riled up. So I walked away, but then I was like, wait a minute, this is good practice, and she seemed nice, so I walked back and like approached her, and like I started talking to her.
She's like, no, you get away from me.
Yeah. And then I just sort of tested the waters of putting her in sit and all of that, and she pretty much resorted to doing the same thing that she did to end the session last time with you, is she kept looking away
Yeah.
back and forth. So, I mean, that's, I would say, good exposure for her. And again, I learned that I think I was better than the time before, but in terms of, you know, repetition, I'm not sure.
Right, like more
It's hard 'cause
opportunities
it's
to
like
do
when
it.
people-
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
when people like come up as opposed to like, hey, you mind talking to me for a minute so my dog can like
Yeah,
act like a brat.
exactly. So how to best sort of get over the hump and have her continuously improve? Because you can tell from an exposure perspective, she's starting to get it, or she's starting to utilize the avoid, whereas she locked in before. Like that was clear, like she had no way of veering her attention away. Because another example is I worked out on the patio because Lauren's starting a new job and working inside, so I worked outside and put Cashew in place on her bed where she was below the street level, so she couldn't completely see people, but she could hear them. And then I would
So
just,
she'll still grumble, like the same sort of grumble, because she knows somebody's around. So he's doing the same sort of correction.
yeah, so I did correction on lower because I didn't want to, you know, heighten it or anything. And then I could tell, like, even when I would like start reaching for the remote, when she would start to grumble, she would be making a decision, or like she would hear it, and then I could see her head darting back and forth. So I think between this time and the last time, the main thing is, you know, my awareness into her making a decision and seeing when she's like starting to get heightened. So I think from a user perspective, we've improved.
Good.
And beyond that, I mean, my only question is like, once again, in apartment work, we would love to schedule the visit, right? You had offered to bring Enrique in so we could do a full thing.
And that's on us. We're going to schedule that.
Correct, but I think that would be a great lesson. But also just kind of in apartment, when she's kind of grumbling, like we've been using the bonker, and it's even worked when we say no and hit the ground by her, she like kind of gets it. I'm not sure if there's any other kind of intermediary correction that we can do that's not the bonker, that's not with the e-collar, to just sort of tell her to cut the crap in a constructive manner. If she's like, I don't know, like sometimes again when I approach Lauren, she like gets all heightened and goes between us and at times growls. So I'm wondering, like, I know you had previously said that she would be the one to correct. Like, what would be a effective exercise for us to mitigate that? That's not the bonker and not the e-collar.
Is not softening up. So like right there, like we started doing the ground. You always keep it physical. Like a dog is like for humans.
Yeah.
Like I was watching last night the 100 with my girlfriend. It's like a show on Netflix. The guy fires a warning shot, like shoots in the air.
Yeah.
It's like warn everybody.
Yeah.
Dogs don't snap at the air and go, "Hey, I'm warning you." They just do it.
Right.
Right. So what it is, it's consistent corrections to her
Yep.
until she just cuts it. Because you're trying to come up with like or we're trying to, and this happens, a nicer way of stopping the dog.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But dogs don't think about nice.
Right.
That's not a thing that like dogs don't think like, I'm going to be nice to you because
Yeah.
you're a nice dog, right? It's if they get a line, they just correct.
Uh-huh.
So it's really, because once you start to create gray area, then she goes, oh, you're softening up.
Okay.
And then it's going to start to regress.
Okay.
But if it's always every little single thing, correction, like with the appropriate level correction on the e-collar, that's fine. Because that's how that works. But like if it's, when you like when you said you were reaching for the remote and you could see her making the decision.
Yeah.
Did you still correct?
Yeah.
Perfect. So
Yeah.
you keep doing that, right?
Yeah, so then that's sort of my last point in my segment is I wasn't sure if I could get to a point of overcorrecting her where like she starts to make a decision and then I still tapped her, but I was wondering if I was like over tapping her or like,
No, because it should be an easy decision,
okay,
right? Where it's just like if you don't want to be corrected, you don't do it.
yeah,
So like this red light here in Diversity and Western is a camera light.
yep,
I've learned that.
Yeah.
That's why I'm telling you. It took one
Yeah.
ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So it's the same thing for Cashew. But the reason why dogs are a little bit more difficult is because remember, they're physical animals. And even though you can bonk, which is a roll of towel, or remote, which is a muscle contraction, it will not mimic a dog bite.
Yeah.
It's as close as you can get to a dog bite without inflicting actual harm to your dog. However, dogs, I've walked into homes with dead dogs. Like that's where dogs are willing to take things. Does that make sense?
yeah,
So when it comes to the correction stuff, it is what it is. But eventually, you're so consistent with stuff,
yeah,
she's like, it's pointless.
Yeah.
Because the real changes have really happened towards this latter half, right? Because you
Right.
started exposing her more. Now you start taking her down busy streets.
yeah,
So now it's like you're kind of resetting a little bit because now you're going out into that world. So it's kind of like, let's say you had finished your program and you had always done quiet neighborhoods. And then a month later, and like everything's great, and then I get an email from like, Jesse, like things were so great, but now they're terrible. I'm like, well, what happened? We're going down busy streets now. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because all the program was done within that quiet area.
Yep.
So that's why I always say your obedience is only, or your behavior is only going to be as good as the environment you practice in. So now that you're going out, I think that's where the real learning is going to happen. But you're going to be doing a lot more corrections because now you're in a different context.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
yeah, because Lauren could talk about the patio thing, like, or I think we talked to you about that last
Yeah,
time.
the last time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, when we were at
And
the
then because
one.
you were too really high, and then when I
Yeah.
came in your correcting, I was like, where are you at? And I said, dip it down lower.
Yeah,
Right, and so that's kind of been, we haven't gone on another patio recently, we haven't. And so like a halfway there point was kind of like what Steve was talking about is before doing any of this training, she would freak out on our street level patio, like off of our apartment. So anybody would walk by, she'd like jump up and start barking, going crazy. Whereas like now I put her bed out there and put her in place. And so then if like Steve or I are out there, then she's got her e-collar on and we're basically correcting her for any of those grumbles that like she hears somebody talking but can't see them and you know, any of those things. So like you were saying, like the exposure, like adding on from there.
yeah,
Definitely, we're saying like, too bad it wasn't nice out. We could have been like, Jesse, come to a patio with us and help
Sure.
us go
Yeah.
through these corrections.
Yeah.
yeah. So there's no such thing as overcorrection in that standpoint, or in terms of like, wasn't sure when I start reaching for the remote and she starts grumbling and then she stops and then she starts looking around, like it's still a correct. And then inside when she's grumbling, we should still just keep using the bonker. So every single time. I think that's something that we could hammer home together.
Yeah, I think with the bonker, so probably what we need to do is have her wear her e-collar more often because her bed is next to us when we're working, but it's not exactly like within range for us to keep getting up and like
Yeah.
actually getting her as opposed to like the area around
And you can
her.
throw it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I usually tell people make like three. Three is a good number to have.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know,
Make some more.
utility belt with bunkers or
Yeah.
whatever. So you have it readily available.
Right.
But like, It's like the other day, like I was going faster than I was supposed to, and I saw like a cop car, and I like stopped late, you know. So it's kind of that decision-making process. Now I didn't get stopped, but I've had similar situations where I did that and I got stopped.
Right.
You know, and then I got a ticket. So the same thing here. You hear the behavior, you go for the remote, and she starts the decision making. It's like, all right, but you already committed the crime.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna follow through.
Yeah.
So the next thing would be, let's say you're doing taps at 30, and she is having that kind of decision-making process, and you again, it's that same pattern of at least 10 times out in the patio, she's doing that. Okay, let's try 33, 35. You're just incrementally going up until you start to see a decline in that behavior.
To avoid it instead
exactly.
of.
So it's always that kind of same
Yeah.
methodology of we start low, but then if it's staying static or consistent, it doesn't seem like it's getting better, we incrementally go up and then see if we notice any changes, you know. Same thing with the bonker thing. If you feel like everything should be less and less, that's how it should always feel. Like in the beginning, it's a lot because you have to establish all these rules, then it's less and less. For you, it might seem like a lot again, or like it's increasing because you're changing things, you're going out more, you're exposing her to busier streets, so that makes sense to me. But if you're in the same environment and you felt like it was going up, then that means we're regressing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think for both of us to just continue, like back when I was sort of loose on the heel, and once I tightened that up, then she became way better. So I think in terms of this final 10%, is if both of us up the corrections mutually, I think that would help. I was just getting a little afraid that I was overcorrecting her, and she was starting to like, almost like rebel, or like, I hate this, and like.
I mean, rebel can happen.
Yeah.
In the sense that, I mean, as you start being more strict, I've seen or can see, we have this remote. Okay, that's Corey. Because you're being more strict.
Yeah.
Like a teenager. She's kind of like.
You know, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
I just keep writing through it. Is there such a thing as overcorrection? Yes.
Yeah.
Chances are you're not going to do it because you don't want to fuck up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You don't want to screw your dog up, so you're actually more cautious than like I've had times where one of my trainers, I could tell like something's not right, and I'd walk in, I'm like, okay, the number's too high or whatever. You know, I'd adjust things, all of a sudden the dog was getting better.
Right.
So that was in a sense overcorrecting, you know, but because they don't have the same, what's the word, reservations, because they're so used to it. You know, we see this stuff all the time, and we work past it.
Yeah.
They just don't have the insight to recognize that yet, whereas I do.
Yeah.
Right. So, but for you guys, because you are cautious and not wanting to screw up, very unlikely that would happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Because I mean, I think from an indoor side, she's again leaps and bounds better from the beginning, but it just sort of getting to that final when we could tell she's a little fussy between like, should we put her e-collar on, which we've done more in the apartment, or like bonker, let's freaking keep doing it until she calms
We also
down.
have a ton of construction going on our
Yeah.
street, so I think she's been more grumbly, and people are moving in and out of the building right now.
Yeah.
So like there's noise in the back, there's noise in the front, and she's kind of,
Uneasy.
I think I've noticed she's been more grumbly lately, but it actually makes more sense when I think about the context of like how much louder our space has been.
Yeah, but
So-
I mean, overall, she's not losing her shit like she did before, where she just keeps barking and like jumps around, and like she used to be like that, and she's not like that anymore because she knows that that's unacceptable behavior. So
Right.
Gotcha. So, when it comes to all that stuff, there's no such thing as a perfect dog.
yeah,
You know, so just keep that in mind. Also, because remember, we can't make her unnervous, but we can help her handle nervousness better.
yeah,
Okay. So the more proactive you are with all these things, especially like you noted, going to busier streets, construction going on, people moving, is as long as you're consistent, it should keep it.
yeah,
What's the word?
mitigated or something.
Yeah, you know, like acceptable.
Yeah.
Acceptable.
Like my dogs bark. You've heard my dogs bark, right?
Yep.
But they're not like barking 24/7. You know, there's some people whose dogs do bark
24/7.
24/7.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, yeah, that's not good. You know, dogs bark, they growl, they grumble. My dog growls like someone could be walking outside and you hear her grumble, and she'll like perk up her head, and then she lays back down, she goes back to sleep. That's acceptable, right?
Yep.
So the last thing would be if you're using the bonker to correct her, what's her response? Like after you've corrected her, what happens?
Well, first she usually like goes like this because she knows it's coming, and then she stops, and then she wags her tail and like is happy.
Yeah. Like when we do the no and I hit it really hard and right in front of her, she gets surprised or does the like lean away like she's gonna get hit.
Okay.
And then she kind of snaps out of it and then she wags and starts going towards you.
Like it's almost like she thinks it's a game.
Yeah,
Sure.
and like sits by you, like comes closer and like closes the space, right? Or like wants affection, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Okay. Do you bonk her?
Yeah.
Okay, bonk her.
yeah,
Don't do nearby anymore, just her. If you happen to miss, grab another one, make contact.
yeah,
Okay. I think that's part of it,
Yeah.
and then see what happens with that.
yeah,
Okay. 'Cause I think that might also be. I think in the video, like he does it on the floor or something, but he's doing that more so to display. Because like unless the dog's actively doing something, it would be unfair just for him to show like, hey, this is how I bonk a dog, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
that's why
think the one I remember him doing like really near the dog, or I guess it happened so fast you can't really tell. Like, did he actually hit the dog or did he hit his lap? Because he was sitting on the floor with a puppy that
No,
was
he hit
like
the dog.
starting to like nibble,
Yeah.
and he like went really fast, and I was like, I can't even tell.
Yeah, no, he bumped the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that though with the I know what you're talking about. Yeah, he actually bumped the dog, but it is quick and it's like you can see how firm it is.
Right.
And then the dog's like, what the hell? And then it goes back to whatever, and he's back to whatever, and then the
Right.
dog does it again, and he corrects him again. You know.
yeah,
And then see what happens with that. So keep everything physical,
yeah,
okay? Because that's her language. It sucks for us emotionally, but for her, it's her language.
okay,
You know, other things.
Oh, I know. So with the people moving in and out of our building, the way we exit our apartment, we actually walk through a garage first before going to another. So it's like a narrow space, and basically it's a surprise for all of us whether somebody is on the other side of the door or not. I think
sure.
that's something we've struggled with because I was
Okay.
saying like if I have like my backpack and I have her and I'm like trying to use my keys and stuff, it's just like a lot. To try and be on to give her like a correction because we're also like just going through a doorway and then through a garage and like making sure I'm able to like correct her because like she'll basically react just like she did when we came in for our consult where she starts grumbling and then barking and like escalates really quickly because it's again a surprise for both parties on either side of the door. So it's like I feel like my only option is to like turn around and retreat and go back into the apartment and like try again, or like, you know, in the chaos, like our neighbor will go run off, like
yeah.
go elsewhere.
Or like put her in stay and then check all the
Like-
doors and then come back and then
Right,
take her,
like-
like, yeah,
I guess it's like an overwhelming situation, but like what the best process to go about that you might have as a suggestion.
Okay.
It'd be almost coming like if that was our apartment door and then you have to walk to that white door, like that's the garage, like that I have to walk through to get to our separate garage. So like we don't have a spot in here. So say there's somebody in that garage space, like what would you suggest is my best option to be like stop her and get her to like calm down and like sit and stop freaking out, or just like keep walking by and like pass the situation.
I'll just move to a new place.
I know, right?
move to a new place.
I think so. One thing that's popping in mind is, I believe this has a device that you can expand to. That's a ring.
Ring
Okay,
tap
so-
thing?
Oh, okay.
So like you
A little
have it
more
set on
convenient.
there.
Yeah.
So it's not like if you got your keys, your backpack, your leash, and all this stuff, and then instead of having a remote in your hand, it's preset, and then when you press the button, it just acts as a NIC function.
Huh,
Okay, so that may be one thing you can look into.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it's its own system or if it's something that they have that you can add to a system.
Yeah.
Okay, so that'd be one thing. The second thing would be, in that situation, because you don't have the time or the space, or just like the looseness to be nuanced, is I probably cap it. Okay? I go to 127.
Yeah.
And you're gonna
Just to
walk
like
into the
shut
garage.
it down.
Yeah, you're gonna go to the garage and have your leash short. Because you're in, so when we're coming into situations where it's gonna be unexpected, I just assume.
Right.
I
Yeah.
assume my neighbor's gonna be in there. So my leash is already short, as if like you're to step aside and let someone pass, but you're relaxed, okay? I'm already at 127. As soon as I get into that door, or as soon as the moment you walk out your door, because you know I don't have time, I don't have space, so you have to overcompensate, okay? And you're just gonna power through. So you're gonna go through, don't worry about stop, sitting, and that stuff. You're gonna walk in, if you walk in, all of a sudden they're like, hi neighbor, blah, boom, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a moment.
But you wouldn't run it,
Yeah.
okay? It's tap, and she goes, whoa, and as you're moving, her brain has to recover from the hit, but then also recover and get her ground and go, oh, cool, we're still going.
Yeah.
And you might get some residual craziness, but you wouldn't remote it. If you feel it, if you tap, if you feel everything she's doing from that point on is related to the tap, you don't remote. Okay?
Kind of like letting her make that decision
Yeah,
again.
it's residual, okay? So what would happen, what I expect to happen, is let's say that does come up, I tap her, she's black. I'm just powering through, right? Sorry, neighbor, we keep going. And she's like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
Come back the next morning, put her on the leash. We're going, everything's preset. Hi, neighbor. You're gonna see this.
Right.
Yeah.
Because now, because remember, she's gonna think 127, she's gonna go, whoa, whoa. But then she's gonna panic, because she's like, am I gonna get it, am I not gonna get it? And you just keep walking, nothing happens. Okay? If you come in and she blows up, tap, she settles, and there's residual, and then she goes again, you kick in.
Right.
One singular tap.
Yep.
Okay, so I've had to, so I had a client, did I tell you about Malachite? It was a pity,
So,
super reactive. And by class 4 or 5, like the lady was not making any progress. And this dog was bad. So finally I told her, I'm like, you know what, 127
Yeah.
for everything. And then I didn't see her for 2 to 3 weeks because she traveled or something. And the next time I saw her, we were at Oz Park, and she's like, Jesse, 180. Ever since we did 127 for everything, 180.
Yeah.
Because we were trying to play it nice and go low, like, you know, just to figure out what's going to work. Nothing was working. So then 127 right off the bat. And this dog used to jump up, grab the leash, spiral around, shriek its ass off. It was really bad.
yeah.
So obviously as the owner, like, oh, right?
Right.
127, oh, very like 180, very straightforward. The dog was like not gonna mess with that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think that makes a lot of sense, at least especially for the situation, because I even find myself like, when you said like the owner was like, oh my God, because I get stressed out about going into the garage because I know that I'm like, okay, I got
Dark,
everything,
yeah.
I got Cashew, and somebody could be out there, but it's just, the situation
Yeah.
makes it difficult.
And especially with new neighbors too, I think that'll be
Yeah, we
crucial
have-
for both of us to figure that out, because they'll probably be surprised that we're coming out of that room too.
Right, like they have no idea
So
that
it's gonna
our
be-
apartment's beyond that wall,
It's going to be a
really.
tight area of surprise people, so that's
yeah,
good
anytime
feedback.
something, you anticipate something's gonna be out of your realm of control,
Yeah,
we have to overcompensate,
yeah,
okay? But you're not running it, okay? You're just shortening the leash, so in case there's a lunge, she's not gonna get far. And you're not gonna use this to back her off, it's just boom, and just keep them moving, let the residual happen, and then you'll get a feel for the spiel versus if she's going back into it again.
Right,
And if you feel she goes back into it, it's just a singular tap.
because
Okay?
that's another thing too, that I probably don't think I followed that process the first time that the girl came up to me and like was approaching, and then Cashew started lunging, and then I tapped her, and then I didn't really let her do the residual. I
Oh,
kept
you-
tapping her,
Yes.
like by
Because you get
instinct, you know?
nervous,
Yeah,
right? Or
exactly.
you're panicking, like,
Yeah. But like she wasn't escalating, like kept trying to lunge. I was just trying to calm her down from her, vicious
Yeah, so
growling.
remember, it's correction.
Yeah.
Give brain time to respond.
Yep.
Okay. So then if she's like, let's say you would have tapped her and she would have been like grumbling and kind of squirming, that's still thinking. But then
Yeah.
if she would have stopped him and right, boom, another one.
Yeah.
Because that's the thought. She was thinking about it, and she goes, I'm going to do this again. And then the blow up.
Yeah.
Okay? You're not dog trainers.
Yeah.
And it's so spur of the moment.
Right.
You're getting caught off guard that it takes time.
Yep.
For sure.
Got it.
But I think in that context, that'll help resolve that lingering bit. And this was something I was thinking about today, before today too, is keep doing what you're doing. If you feel like you've hit a plateau, that was going to be my last step, was 127 it for everything. Okay? And all of a sudden, you start to see the dog make different decisions.
Yeah.
So it's like, red light ticket is $100. That's not my first red light ticket. And I'm sure it's not going to be my last one, right? But if it was like a $10,000 ticket, now I'm going to start thinking differently.
Right.
I don't want to waste $10,000 just for
Yeah.
a red light, right? So same thing for the dog. I think we still have plenty of space to practice and keep
Yep.
rehearsing.
Right.
Because like you said, you just started exposing her. I think it's going to make a big difference as well. Because now you're taking her out to places where you normally wouldn't.
Yep.
Right? And then once you feel like, whether it's a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, and you're like, okay, we just got this last 3%. You
Yep.
talk to me or email me or whatever, because I think you have one more after this.
One more,
One
yeah.
more. Because yeah,
And that would be my last answer, would be like, okay, if she's still willing to do all this stuff,
Yeah.
we cap it.
Because
yeah.
I think, you're definitely right on all that. I think the only other time that we've noticed is like if we're just running her out to use the bathroom really quickly
Yep.
and we don't put her e-collar on, it's the whole like cops on, cops off mentality
Yep.
for her, where she'll still have a reactive moment here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Not nearly as bad, but it's still like, it's almost like she knows like cops aren't on,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm still thinking about it, and we're, the only correction we have is
Pull
the
the thing
prong
up.
collar.
Yeah, and with the prong collar, do you know how to correct on the prong collar? I know we haven't really, we've covered like de-escalating on
I was
the
gonna
prong.
say mainly just de-escalating, not really like
Not really correcting,
correcting
no.
on it.
So with the prong collar, it's a pop. Show you.
Oh, yeah, the little one.
Yeah.
Oh, he's waiting for him. And this one's funny, the little one, little piggy.
It looks like Cashew.
Yeah, it does.
Prong collar. There's 2 ways to use it. When you're using it more subtly, it's we're trying to settle the brain. Okay. So what you guys have learned is if she escalates from the consultation, is upwards pressure,
Yep.
and then when you feel it relax, you relax with her. Okay. So that's to help settle the brain. If you're doing remote collar, if you try to do the pop and the e-collar at the same time, it's too much
Yeah.
conversation. Whereas this would just be there, and then that's really doing the bulk of the work. Okay? So then here, with the leash pop, if the leash is here, is you very quickly snap the collar. So it creates a biting motion.
Yeah,
Okay?
got it.
So what people tend to do is they're already tight, and they yank it. So then it stays tight. But we keep it slack, and then we pop. So it creates this biting motion very quickly and opens. It's like a dog bite would, right? Boom.
Yeah.
Right? They nip and release for a correction. So that's the same thing that you're doing here. The difficult part that you may come across is if her nervousness, stress, and or reactivity is too great, is the collar may not override the situation. I had he's not here today. He was here earlier. This dog, Reggie. I met them at my pack walk when I was doing him at Lakeview. And he has crazy prey drive. Squirrel, rabbits, birds, whatever. And they were yanking him so hard, and you would see him like move, and he was still like this, right? And then even I was correcting him, and I was like, correct, and he was just like zoned in.
Yeah,
That it wasn't working.
Yeah.
It's the same problem for, it can be potentially the same problem for the reactivity, nervousness, and stuff like that. But it still at least gives you something to try
Yeah.
to see, will it work here?
Yeah, I was
Okay.
gonna say, I was trying to like think of the scenario. I think we'd obviously have to, it's all about the proactiveness of like watching her and seeing if she's like locking in. And like so we should be doing like a correction like that ahead of time, because I was just thinking like,
Yes.
once she's already like leaning, there's no way I'm gonna have enough like, leash
Yeah.
to give her a correction when she's already like lunged forward. So making sure that like, if we're not gonna use the e-collar and we're like, okay, we're just gonna go out and pee, knowing that if something happens and she locks in and starts her low grumble, that's like the
Yeah.
correction point before she like turns it into the next lunge.
Correct.
Like where I don't have any
Yeah.
Yeah.
leash
And
left.
There's no obedience involved here either. It's just, you're just trying to break the brain out of what's going on at the moment. And I have a video. I think we were working with the dog in the kennel that he wasn't on an e-collar, he was on a prong collar. And I go over prong corrections and you see how I apply it. If you shoot me an email, I'll see if I can dig it
Okay.
up and send it to you.
Yeah.
Because I know the Reggie one, I know we had that on video because we were out we were recording at the park, and I wanted to make kind of a video of like, this is why I don't like prong collar. It's a great tool, but
by
I get a lot of
itself,
people,
yeah.
they're like, Jesse, like, because a lot of trainers still use this. I use this because it's the easiest for everybody. Easy to correct, it's very powerful. This takes a lot of technical skill, but I have at least like 5 to 8 clients right now who came from prong, who dogs were reactive, and their prong did nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, now it's a little bit different because she's already gonna be sensitive to corrections just because of everything that you've been doing. So my hope is that because of that, it makes her more receptive to the prong correction. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm continuing to desensitize her to busy streets. We're going to work on patio, which probably the prong correction may not apply because we're just going to be tapping her. But the only other scenario that I could think of is when we start working on like long leash heel to where she doesn't feel the collar, but then all of a sudden, I mean, we have the e-collar on, right? But would we use the prong collar correction too if we're working on like long leash heel, or is that
I would do all that remote.
all that remote?
Yeah,
Okay.
anything that's gonna be off leash stuff.
Because that's preparing her for off leash, right?
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Because the more you use the leash, the more she becomes reliant on it.
Yeah.
The more you become reliant on it.
Yeah.
So all that stuff would be strictly remote.
Okay.
But if it's just like a quick potty break, that's where you're using it for the behavioral component.
Yes, that's
Okay. Now, if you put her in a heel and she's on the prong collar, then technically, yes, you would use the prong, right?
that was
If
my
you-
question. Yeah.
Yeah. So like if you're walking in a prong, you did heel, then the answer is yes.
Okay.
Because that's what you have at the moment. But if I have the remote, then I'm always going to jump to the remote.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Because the main thing is just force of habit.
Yep.
You know, if you're so used to using the leash and yanking it, is like you're instinctively going to go to that first, and you
Yeah.
want the remote. And I want people to always go to the remote first, as opposed to the leash.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yep. That clears it up.
Other questions?
I don't think so.
I think so.
So I think main things for this would be keep doing busy stuff. Keep doing stuff that you normally wouldn't do. Getting out that comfort zone.
Yep.
Taking her Home Depot, taking her to Best Buy, taking her, and don't, so there's 2 different settings. It's one thing for a dog to walk in a setting where there's a lot of people, and another thing to be sitting at your feet and then someone enters your space. It's very different.
Yep.
Okay, so don't think like, oh, we went to Home Depot and it's been amazing. And then you go to a restaurant and she's like, oh, she was a jerk. That makes sense.
Right.
It's one thing to go into a space versus someone coming into her space.
Yep.
So keep doing that. For the garage, cap it. Going with the short leash, not tight, and then just go. Okay. I'd also just maybe talk to your neighbors and be proactive and be like, hey,
Oh,
we're
yeah.
with our dog.
Yeah.
All the new ones, or all the ones that live there and the new ones, when I welcome them, it's like, Steve and I live on the first floor along with our nervous dog Cashew. Sorry if she barks at you. Like, we're working on it.
Yeah. And then be like if you see me rush by and I don't say hello, I'm not trying to be rude. It's because
Yeah.
Right,
trying to manage the
exactly.
situation. But then once you feel like, hey, shit, it's working, it's a bit different now, right? Now you walk in the garage, well, hi, neighbor. Hi, right? Now she's like, you're gonna probably start to see that behavior now.
Yeah.
She's like 127,
Yep.
right? This is the situation.
Yeah.
Nothing happens, good, we go. Excellent.
Yep.
When it comes to the bonker, all physical, all to Cashew. If you miss, try again. And then you're already doing it, but correcting anything that she does, even if she's making a decision.
Yeah.
Maybe even playing with the number a little bit, incrementally going up. If we're still seeing consistencies in her grumbling,
Yeah.
Like you said, there is construction and a lot of stuff going on, and it could be just that really. And then once that passes and things go back to normal, if you're like, oh yeah, no, she's really good now, then it was just that kind of time.
Right, yeah.
Got it.
Okay. Anything else?
Can't think of anything
I don't think so.
right now.
Because, yeah, she's doing the recall when she's engaged really well. When she's engaged, she knows all of the fundamentals. We've been working on impulse control. We've been working on, like, she knows the puppy push-ups from when we did it. We were working on the down stays before because she had that, and that got cleared up pretty well. So,
Yeah. It's definitely been a 180 from the first class or the,
yeah. But,
the consult and the
Couple of
first.
other cases I have right now.
yeah.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. I mean, if you want, so Doug, have I talked to you guys about Doug?
I think, yeah.
He's a good, man, he's tough.
Yeah.
But,
He's like a little more compact pity, right?
Yeah,
Like-
he's a little powerhouse. He's
Yeah.
a brick, man. We had a session where I had to 127 continuous for like 5 minutes straight
Yeah.
before he finally backed off. But we were doing he couldn't even walk past me when I was like moving my sleeve around. He was just going at it. And we came back to it, and I finally got him to back off. And then when I saw him the next time, it was like 60-ish. It was much more easy to back him off.
Yeah.
But it just kind of shows you. The brain just needs to learn to back off.
Yep.
That's it. Once you get that across the head or across the brain, things start to get much easier.
Yeah.
Okay? So he's a good one to watch if
Yeah.
you want to
See some more examples.
see some stuff.
Yeah, because in terms of I don't think I mentioned this in the previous one. I had a second friend over and had him do the exercise to prepare for entering the
yeah,
apartment, and she did way better. Did I
You're talking
say
about
that?
Eric?
No, when Colin came over.
Oh,
Because when
okay,
Eric
yeah.
came over, I had it really high, and I kept tapping her.
But she had met Colin before, like
She had met
a
Colin
long
before.
time ago.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
like the repetition stuff that like,
So like you said, for it to register with her with the in-apartment visit, I hope that next session we'll start to see a breakthrough of what's a good level so she could let it go as far as people coming
and it's
in.
all about repetition.
Yeah.
yep.
I obviously with COVID it's made it weird for everybody.
Yeah.
So I'm not too worried about that as long as you understand the exercise.
Yes.
And I think all this other stuff together as well. And especially if you end up doing 127, it changes things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
for
but
sure.
I got to work through everything, make sure we're doing all the steps and stuff before I come to the conclusion of. And we're only doing it for that one context, And if the next time I see you, you're like, hey, this is where we're struggling, then I'll go, okay, we're probably going to introduce it right there too, because that's the last little bit is always the hardest.
Yeah.
Okay, because it is like, oh, but we can't plan for it. It's all of a sudden. So if I'm like, if the dog is great with everything else, I go, just keep it at 127 then, because you're not having to correct the dog for all the other stuff. It's
Right.
only when those moments come up.
Yeah.
So instead of being prepared for the obedience stuff that she doesn't mess up anymore, I prepare for the behavior stuff now.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it
And
just
that's-
it just makes it easier to be more direct and immediate.
It's kind of where our heads are at right now, is
Yeah.
the behavioral, that 5 to 10% scenario.
Yeah. The only other thing I was also thinking, I know we've talked to you about it too, and we even mentioned it earlier, but what would you suggest is the best way to practice, or at least for me to correct her, if Steve comes into my space, wants to give me a hug or give me a kiss or something, and she just bolts towards us and wants to be in the middle and even has grumbled a little bit before. And so would you suggest e-collar over bonker in that situation, or should we practice it where I'm holding a bonker ready to go, have him come into my
I would probably
space?
do color first
Yeah.
and have it up there, the 60s or whatever range. And the moment you see her look is the moment you go to hug there.
Okay.
Yeah.
She shouldn't even care. Because if she's already in here, the bonker is to stop doing something,
Right.
not to do something. So if you were to try to bonker here and she's wedged in between
Right.
you're telling her, get out from between us. That's a do something.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if you catch her on the way, that's different, but it's difficult, right? Because then you got to go from this to this to this.
Yeah.
As opposed to if you're just hugging, you just tap the button.
Yeah, because she's in place and she's broken place before sometimes when Lauren's sitting at the chair, and then I get up from my chair over here, and Cashew's in the middle, and the first step, and I start leaning towards her, she gets up and gets right between us. So
Yeah. And even that right there, you know, like set it
Correcting
up.
yeah,
Those are good ones.
yeah,
Yeah,
And then
but probably e-collar, because I thought the same thing. I'm like, it's just awkward to like try and
do the bonker.
be ready with it rather than
Yeah.
like just having her collar on
Yeah, so
and
set
being
it
able
up.
to correct it, like you said, like even when she's just like thinking about like coming towards us, then give us
Proactively
a
shut it
space.
down.
yeah, what that should look like is it goes from her looking at you when you're about to hug to her looking at you about to hug and then turning away and like laying down.
Yeah.
It's the same
Yeah.
avoidance stuff. I don't like what's happening, so I'm gonna just pretend it's not.
Right.
Yep.
You know, so it's always the same. It's different triggers, same response.
Yeah.
Got it. Makes sense.
We've also been, I think at the end of last class, I was talking to you about like we're trying to introduce more loud appliances because
yeah.
she freaks out at like new appliances and like
Yeah.
we got her over the coffee grinder with positive reinforcement by like giving her a dingo stick. She'd usually just run to the other side of the room, eat it, and then she's like, okay, loud noise means I get a dingo stick.
Yeah.
Good. But we're kind of working on that too, to like get her to a calm space and to have it turned on and then treat her afterwards to like
Yeah.
desensitize her to
Because I
that.
literally just took the blender out today, and I don't think she had really gone for a walk, or maybe she did, but it kind of riled her up, like without even me turning it on. So in terms of
Just
like
the sight of it, knowing
the
that
sight
it's
of it, the knowing that it makes noise, she started kind of growling or like getting all riled up. So not sure if that would be another thing to
Yeah.
correct her or treat
Yeah, no,
her.
So dogs don't positive reinforce each other, you know.
Yeah.
So it's great. Obviously, it works. It can
Yeah.
teach things and reinforce things. But dogs, and even humans, like, did I give you the hot stove example? Have you touched a hot stove?
No,
Do it
Yeah.
again. You haven't touched one?
I don't think so.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're lucky.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have too.
Yeah.
Wouldn't do that again.
Yeah.
Right? Was that positive reinforcement?
No.
Yeah, it's positive
Yeah.
punishment.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? We learn more from negative experience than we do from positive experiences.
Yep.
There's even sayings, we learn more from our failures than our successes.
Lost. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, when it comes to it, I always just jump to the correction because that's what dogs do to each other. They just, if a dog gets out of line, they just correct. They don't sit there and go like, here's a dog biscuit for like not mounting that dog, right?
Right.
So, I'm not against it, but if anything, I would just opt for correction. Now, if you're trying to get her to like something, well then yes, you would use positive reinforcement, right? So like, let's say your friend comes over, you correct her and get all that nonsense out the way, and then now you want her to like your friend.
Yeah.
Now you would use positive reinforcement.
Okay.
Because now you want her to associate something good with him.
So like with the blender, if she starts getting riled up, but we proactively correct her, say in place, and then she calms down, and like the blender goes and she's good, we then may give her a treat after that. Yeah. Okay.
And I think we talked about that before too, like
Yeah.
using the correction and using the reward.
Corrections
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
Like those two
after.
things are very powerful together.
Okay.
But if I'm gonna opt for anything and I'm trying to stop something, definitely positive punishment for sure.
Got it. Yep. That's the next step for us in terms of
Yeah.
making a
every-
smoothie, not having to worry about her freaking out when someone else is trying to work, making a smoothie.
Yeah.
Like,
Every little thing that bugs the dog, I push it.
yeah.
Okay, is not to be a jerk, but if something is left unaddressed, it'll just sit there.
It festers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
Like I was like, it festers. So
So you-
like,
yeah.
you know, if you watch Doug's videos, you see me press I'm like, oh, he doesn't like that. We're gonna do that. Oh, he doesn't like that either. We're gonna do that too, right? I don't avoid things. Otherwise, if it ever pops up, like you said,
Yeah.
maybe you have a guest over and they want to make a smoothie or something, right? They don't know.
Yeah.
Right, and you're not going to give them a laundry list of like, hey, here's
Right, here's
Right.
what she doesn't like.
Yeah. So for us, I think using the e-collar in our apartment needs to happen a lot more.
Yeah.
or the bunker.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
can use bunker for that too. You know, I also look at e-collars like more outside stuff.
Yeah.
Or like if there's something I can't control, like a guest coming in, that's a very heightened state. Plus, people going like, what are you doing to your dog, right? Like, it's easier if you just press a button as opposed to like bonking.
Yep.
So I tell people like, if it's just like privacy of your own home and just trying to stop things, bonker is great. If it's obedience related or you're outside or if there's a stimuli that's a big trigger, e-collar is great
Yeah.
right there.
Got it. Cool.
Other questions?
Don't think so. Just again, we learned so much from the previous exercise of you bringing the sleeve out and messing with her, like you said, pushing her boundaries, because that's how I saw her like
Well, and yeah,
avoidance
like actually
reaction.
watching and like waiting for her to like make the decision.
Yeah. That helped a lot. So I'm not sure if we can do that again in closing or another. I'm not sure what you think in terms of.
Yeah, the touch stuff?
Yeah.
Let me just get my sleeve.
Yep.
Did you notice she's like been like
Shaking.
shivering the whole time?
What's that? Been shaking? Yeah.
I know I say shivering because it looks like a shiver.
Yeah. But she knows not to growl because we're correcting her.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, but she very lightly growled when he
Yep.
like came back that other
And
time.
then you tapped her, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so.
I was at 25 for that.
Yep, and there she is again.
All right, so we're going to spring around in the middle of
All right, come on. Come on. Where are you going? There you go.
Because did we do it with both of us?
We did
handling
it,
her?
I
Or-
think we did it once with me, and then she stood between us
Between
at one
us,
point too. So-
I'm such a dummy. My mic was off the whole time.
Uh-oh.
But maybe your mic's picking me up. So.
Oh yeah, you
Yeah.
probably got it on ours.
Yeah, so we'll see. All right. So what you'll do here is go and shorten a little bit more. More. And then relax your arm. So you want to think, yeah, like that. So this is like the length that you would use for the garage as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's short, but it's not tight. It puts you an immediate advantage.
But
So
yeah,
if you
it
give
gives
the
me
high,
leverage.
yeah, you're just right there.
Okay.
And you can just power through stuff.
We'll see. Remember last time we were here, you're like, we'll be able to tell if she made progress if she immediately starts shaking instead of grumbling.
Yeah,
But-
I remember
but
you
when's
saying
the last time I
that.
saw you too,
Like 2 or 3 weeks
Yeah.
ago.
right? So it like that's
She's associating it. She
sticks.
remembers. Yeah.
because people. That's why with remote, like I tell people, like dogs don't forget.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
I've had dogs that I've trained and for rescues,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, don't worry about it. I'll come
Right.
back when they're adopted, and I'll go
Comes
over it
right
with the
back,
owners and it
yeah.
comes right back. So here, even like she's not wanting to,
She's not opening her mouth to pant yet, but she's.
Yeah.
yeah, but she's also not looking at me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? If I go over here, oh, now she's still looking. There we go. Now she looks the other way. Okay. If I go over here, now she looks the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
Is-
avoidance.
Is me
So it's
moving
improvement.
bothering her too, or like? No.
It's more so me because
Yeah.
like
Like she's looking away
Yeah.
as
this is
far.
what we saw last time.
Yeah.
Where we were coming in, and I was like coming around and stuff, and she wasn't wanting to look.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I come back this way, a little bit of concern. Good. And then what's the number currently at?
28.
A little bit of lip there. Tip. Hi. Yep. So the energy is different now.
Yeah.
So with quiet energy, she's learned like, okay, like, I can deal with that. I can accept it.
Yeah.
Don't like it, but I can deal with it. But then once the high energy starts to kick in, that's a bit harder now.
Yeah.
So the level of what she took it to, that 1 to 2 grumble, not bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Now if she were to grumble, you get escalate, then we'd have to play with the number a bit.
Yeah.
Got it.
Hi. Hello. Cashew. Good girl. Yeah, it's a good girl. Look at you. Yes. Good. A little side eye there, which she's super awkward. Good. Yep. Yep. What's your number currently at?
28.
Let's go to 42.
So 42?
Yep. So that immediate kind of, where she came in to sniff and then right away, turning off the other way. Hi. Tip. Tip. Now let's try 56. Hi. Hey. Tap. 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 Right there. See how there's a bigger movement now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
That's what I saw in the patio, in the front patio. She kept doing bigger movements, and then I could tell her decision making was more intense. She kept
Yes.
kind of darting around even more.
Yes.
Same sort of thing.
So here, the taps that you were doing on the 28 earlier were not enough to phase her. Okay, so here, the working number would be around this 56 to 6-ish
Yeah.
range that we're at. And this is the nuance stuff that I was talking about.
Right.
So like in the garage, you don't
Yeah.
have time for nuance.
Right.
But when you have set up context, like if your friend comes over and they're like, yeah, I'm cool with the color, what's going on? How can I help? You can do this. So there's no rush, right?
Yeah.
But I could tell immediately on that 28 it wasn't working.
Yeah.
Because she took it and she was like, whatever.
Yeah.
As soon as you hit this range, it was like, oh, okay, maybe I should be a little bit more concerned about
Yeah.
what's going on right now. Okay?
Got
So
it.
you're making her more concerned about the correction than she is about what the person is actually doing.
Right.
Okay?
I think that's something I missed the mark on the patio.
I think too, like we're always like she'll be more surprised by the first one. So like I think we've been scared to like
Go
be
hard,
at a
yeah.
56 because she has like yelped so
yelps,
many
yeah.
times of like shock
For sure.
or
yeah.
something. So then we're like, okay, well, it fixed it when we were at like 30 or 40, but like that it would still come back. So it wasn't really fixed. It was just like in the moment, like, yeah, she stopped,
Yeah.
but it wasn't like
Because
for a longer time.
Yeah, I walked her for 20 minutes and she was at heel. I didn't put her in brake. And like you said, the ratio is like 70 to 90% in heel. And then she broke it and started smelling. And I tapped her, it was like 36. And she did really loud yelp and got right back to me. So I wasn't sure if
It's
that
just
was
like
too
that
high.
situational thing.
Or it's just
of,
like a situational
surprise.
of her. Yeah.
Gotcha. So when it comes to that, like, who are you looking for? Oliver. He's the Boston Terrier. Yeah. So when it comes to that, like, let's say, because then it makes you paranoid,
Yeah.
right? It's technically better to just come in harder.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if you tap the 36 and she yelps,
Yeah.
just go 28, right? Just go down low.
Okay.
Don't become paranoid about the next time.
Okay.
So that's what I
Yeah.
was talking about earlier, like being cautious.
For sure.
Yeah.
It happens, but if you're always trying to accommodate her, you're going to keep yourself in this limbo.
Yeah.
Because you're doing this because you love her,
Yeah.
right? You care about her, and you don't want to be a jackass to her.
Right.
But at the same time, it's kind of, well, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for everything.
Right, yeah.
So it happens for us too. Like we have that dog right there, Petra. Not Petra, Quinn.
Which one, the
Quinn
cow?
here,
Yeah.
who is very heightened. Okay, she is super flighty. She is super vocal. And with her, trying to figure things out is very difficult. So we might be at 54 and it's working great, and then 5 minutes later she's yipping. So, we
Yeah.
gotta
Yeah.
dip it. So we're just constantly adjusting.
Right.
So it happens, it happens. Or you might find you tap her on 36 and you go down lower, and the next time she does something, you tap her at 22, and now she's not listening, then you gotta go back to 36.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what happens with me. It's temperature limbo too. Because one day, especially
Right.
this
This weekend
season,
it was 80 something degrees out, and
it's
then
cold and 36, she yelps. But then on the warm day, I tapped her one time at like 40, didn't even react at all. So I had to crank it up to like 57 for her to even adhere to heel,
Oh, sure.
with no yelp, because it's the temperature change, because it was like a 30-degree difference.
Yep.
Yeah.
And in hotter weather, the level goes like.
Right, you were telling us that,
Yeah.
that goes up. And I think too, because of the last class, we had talked so much about that patio scenario where we were like too high for the situation. So then we were trying to like find our happy medium of like, okay, in heel, she's this, in like this type of this situation, she's this, on a patio, she might be this, like,
Yeah.
as opposed, like making sure we didn't want to like like escalate her.
Yeah.
Like when we were on that patio.
Behaviorally, yes, depending on the situation. Again, if you could be nuanced, we're nuanced. But if you can't be nuanced, just come in.
Right.
Because you've already done all the precursor work.
Yeah.
If we didn't do this on week 1, we're
Yeah.
on week 11,
Yeah.
and there's been gap between classes, right?
Yep.
So all that stuff is normal. Obedience stuff, if you were to overcorrect her, it shouldn't lead to a reactive moment.
Yeah.
because
Right.
There's no target.
Right.
Right? It's the behavioral stuff where you're more concerned about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So if you do 36 and she yips, I go, all right, well, the next time I correct her, if she yips again, I'll dip it.
okay.
As opposed to just immediately dip
Yeah.
it. You know?
Got it, got it.
It's just getting a feel for it. Like right now, as soon as I tell her 28, I already knew, but I was just like, let's see. And then once we hit that 52, 56
Yeah.
range, then I started to see the response I would have wanted
Yeah.
from the get-go. Okay? Other questions?
I don't think so. I mean, obviously, we like this exercise with their reactivity for, again, over
Right,
the
to kind of
summer.
see like the
If
progress.
someone
of, like,
who has
where
no
we're
idea,
at.
just out of nowhere, just, oh, hello, like, charges at her, that we're not like, freaking out, or she doesn't freak out. So that's why I want,
Happens too.
what's that?
Shit like that does
Oh
happen.
yeah, I
Right,
mean like there was
exactly.
a little girl running towards us the other
Right.
day when I was in heel, and I was like, oh my god, like
Yeah.
dive in front and be like, girlfriend,
Yeah.
stay away.
So post-pandemic, with people who want to do that to dogs, who like want to re-socialize and just go up to her. That's why I like you doing that exercise, so we know, like,
Yeah, and what you can do in that scenario
Yeah.
is just stick out your leg.
yeah,
Oh yeah, and that's
Yeah.
like we were on the sidewalk and like I don't know if it was their teacher or somebody, but it was like 3 little kids were coming out of like homeschooling somewhere, and we were walking. 2 of the kids are following the teacher, and the one who's like probably 6 or 7 just wandering down the street like, oh, dog, and like is coming towards me, and I was like, okay. So then I pulled Cashew back. I mean, she wasn't reacting,
Sure.
but obviously a little kid, I don't want her to all of a sudden like lunge towards them or her to get in her space. So I just kind of like extra widened myself, and she peeled off, but I was just like, what the hell? Like, you don't know what little kids are gonna do. So
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like panic inducing, and you're like,
No, I mean, it happened to me over at Oz Park,
yeah,
where we had these kids charging up with their dog, and the dog I happened to have was a social dog. But the kid was running up with their golden doodle in the middle of Oz Park. I'm like, we're the parents.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right? And they're like, oh my God. And I was like, no. And they looked at me like, what? I'm like, no. I'm like, go. And they were not happy.
Right,
But I did it because I was like, you need to learn to not do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
You know, and then it's funny
exactly.
because I saw them again like a week later, and they completely ran past us and ran to another person and their dog.
Yeah.
With their dog. And I'm like, who,
Like-
it's things, there's kidnappers out there.
Right.
Right.
You know?
You're not concerned
So,
about
yeah.
that, let
Yeah.
alone a dog biting you, maybe?
Proactively
Yeah.
preparing for that 5 to 10%. By you doing that,
Yeah.
helps both of us a lot.
Cool.
So here, but you can see just how it sticks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like I said, I saw her like doing the shaking, like, so now we're really waiting for her to start doing the panting at some point, but
Yeah.
the
So- 'cause
shaking,
she's-
like you said.
Well, she just did ultimate when I came back to the person and I just started talking to her, because I ended up talking to her for like 15 minutes. We were about 10 to 15 feet away, and she didn't like keep approaching, but pretty much the entire time Cashew was
Yeah.
doing this, and
Mm-hmm.
she never even looked at the person.
Yep. That
So
was good. And what was your number?
I think when I came back, it was high 50s as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when you corrected originally, was it in the high 50s?
I think it was 40 something, so
Okay.
I turned it up after the fact.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
when you came back.
Yeah,
to
when I
try
came
again.
back.
Yeah. So, and you can just do like, whenever you see someone, turn it up,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
right? And then when you pass them, just turn it down.
Yeah,
You
Yeah.
see a person coming, like you're just assuming this person might talk to me. Turn it up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or if all the obedience stuff has been good, like I said, just have your number already preemptively turned off.
yeah,
Yep.
So this way, if you're caught off guard, you're not like, oh crap, I missed the opportunity because I didn't have the time
yeah.
to adjust.
And I have to look into whatever that ring one is, because that would be, I mean, this isn't that big, but it is kind of like
It's a lot of
a
stuff.
lot. Whereas like I'd prefer to just like have one hand open at least.
Well, yeah, I know they have a system with the ring. I don't know if the ring is
Like an
something like that,
add-on
but I feel
by
like
this.
It would be to this one.
Yeah.
Because this is their newest model.
Okay,
Yeah.
So I don't see
Yeah.
why they wouldn't have that.
we'll have to look into it.
Well, actually, I had another question in terms of walking scenarios. Again, I've been keeping her very tight with heel, and then when I approach people and they're walking their dog as well from a distance, I always say like, hey, like, is it okay if my dog says hi? She's very nice, everything like that. And then I say break. Is that like the appropriate procedure as far as like letting Cashew introduce herself to the dog by saying break, or should I have her like sit and have the dog come up, or what's the
Right,
best?
you would release her.
Okay.
So like she'd be under control,
Yep.
right? We're talking, oh, can my dog say hi? Sure. you would release and then take a step forward probably,
Take a step forward.
because she might be a little hesitant.
Okay.
If you're being really strict with things, when
Yeah.
you say break and she'll just be like, nah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So it's like break and then you kind of a step in to like
Yeah.
lead,
Okay.
create some kind of
Yeah.
momentum.
Yeah.
And if she doesn't, like you can take another step forward and just kind of nudge her
Okay.
to see if she'll come in to
Yeah.
greet. Yeah.
Well, she's a little too kind of forward with like she assumed she could say hi to dogs. So I think both of us need to be a little more strict to a certain extent.
I don't
with
usually
me. Yeah.
have her meet any dogs on walks,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah.
So unless we already know them, like
Yeah.
we have a couple dogs in our neighborhood that she's,
Yeah.
played with many times.
But overall, I've been trying to keep it more strict. But I think because I walk on Logan Boulevard a lot, and there's a lot of dogs that come from the dog park, and usually they're initiating conversation like, "Oh, my dog's really nice." And I was like, "Oh, my dog is too," and then I tell Cashew break.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. It's if she's under command, just a release.
yeah,
So let her know now it's okay for you to say hi or whatever.
Yeah.
got it.
Cool.
But yeah, I mean, this is good. Hi. Hey. Hi. But yeah, if you want a kind of a nice comparison of what you could have,
Yeah.
just watch Doug.
Oh, yeah.
I saw his initial video for sure, like, yeah. And like he's a little tank of just wild,
Yep.
but
Lesson 5 was definitely the hardest class I think that we've had.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so they did 2 classes on Feel Like Normal.
Yeah.
And everything else has just been getting them comfortable with like being touched and around and
Yeah.
things happening around them and everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
But he's a nervous, anxious dog too.
Mm-hmm.
So they're very similar, just
Yeah.
he's a much higher
Level of it.
extreme case.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot.
Exactly. And she's improved a lot. Again, proactively preparing for the summer, post-pandemic.
Yeah.
There's going to be people who are going to be doing that.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing
Yeah.
is like as things are opening up and like people are outside, it's so much nicer and like we are gonna have way more interactions or like possible interactions, like we talked about, like little kids or people talking to like or stopping to talk to you.
Yeah.
So like having more of this like exposure and like how to kind of like handle those experiences.
And that also comes to mind. We'll also had the idea for eventual patios once we get her fully ramped up is Lauren was going to have a like bandana or like scarf.
Oh yeah,
made
we
that
talked
says-
about this,
says
like one that
nervous,
says
yeah.
nervous, so
Yeah.
people are more aware of like, okay,
Yeah.
please don't just like come up and assume that, because sometimes I see people at like dog-friendly
Patios,
patios,
yeah.
and it's like, yeah, I was definitely at one point in that state of mind that I thought most dogs were pretty friendly, and like they'll just stick their fingers like in front of a dog to see if,
They'll smell or whatever.
without
Yeah.
even like saying anything to the owner, and it's like, meanwhile, I know now from having Cashew that like if anybody just looked at her the wrong way, or even like got too close, like I would be freaking out, and that's like in my head, knowing that she might react, and like just watching those interactions when we don't even have Cashew with us is so like stress inducing for me that I'm like, at least having something that says like nervous, like please don't approach me type.
Yeah, there's some that say do not pet.
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
nervous or whatever.
As like a cue
I've
to
seen a
help
lot of
us.
those. Yep. Yep. Nervous, do not pet.
Yeah.
One of my employees, he got for his dog, I saw he had a harness that says do not pet. I was like, oh, you got him a harness? He's like, yeah, man. He's like, because I helped him treat his dog.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know how many times you want to touch a well-trained dog? He's like, everywhere I go, they just want to touch my dog. And I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, I mean, she's opened up your window, obviously, in terms of
Yep.
dogs and everything.
Dog knowledge and yeah, temperaments. But yeah, it's been good.
Dog's not tucked either. It's good, more comfortable.
Yep.
I know, I noticed she was a little bit shaking while she was sitting at our feet there, but that's just her like not knowing what to do with the stress because she did get
Yeah, it's
tapped
gotta
for
go
grumbling. So she's like,
Yeah.
all right, what am I doing?
Yeah, it's got to go somewhere. That's nothing good or bad. It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So you have a little kind of cluster thing to begin working on.
Yeah.
And then whenever you're ready, there's no rush with them every day.
Yeah, for sure.
And you can schedule them to get set up.
Definitely.
Yep.
Cool. Oh, don't forget the